Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
And this is Talking About It.
So, this is our episode at the end of book 3. We're, according to books anyway, we're halfway through Lord of the Rings.
Yes, so this is a special halfway point episode where we're really talking about just the previous 3 books that we've read, our thoughts on it, some of the more silly stuff like my predictions, and then thoughts moving forward. Typically we do like a book wrap up at the end of a book for the final chapter, but we decided to leave this for like a whole thing since we're at that technically halfway point.
Right, and I'll be talking about some stuff that goes over not just the first half, but the whole book actually. So.
Oh, so should I not listen?
No.
Okay.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Okay.
No spoilers.
Cool.
No
cool,
spoilers.
Cool, cool. Okay.
All right.
So speaking of the first 3 books, we were gonna do a quick summary of what kind of happened.
Okay. Go.
So Bilbo and Frodo have this big birthday party where Bilbo's really old and Frodo is just coming of age to be a dude. And so Bilbo decides that he's had enough and he's just going to go like travel one last time before he just, I guess, dies. And so he leaves all of his stuff to Frodo, including the ring. And then Gandalf, who's kind of known about the ring, and one of the few people that knows the truth about the ring, finally realizes after a lot of research, this is in fact the one ring. And Frodo is immediately like, I don't want it. And so Gandalf just like throws it in the fire because he doesn't want to touch it either. And then they confirm it's the one ring. And so Frodo's like, uh-oh. And Gandalf's like, yeah, we gotta go. And then he pulls Sam out of the window who is eavesdropping because Sam's just Frodo's bro. And he's like, fine, I guess you can come along. So they start off going where Gandalf is just like, you guys get your affairs in order and then we'll go. And there's like a lot of exposition about like Gandalf explaining to Frodo about what's going on that I'm not going to get into because it's long. And so Frodo and Sam are like waiting for Gandalf, but he's not coming, so they decide to like go on their journey. And Merry and Pippin are just like, oh yeah, we've actually been secretly preparing the entire time to go with you as well, ha ha ha. And it's like, yeah, these dudes, they're awesome. And so the 4 of them go off to past the Shire, or not past the Shire, but like past Hobbiton in the Shire, to Bree, which is like the furthest that most of them had. Actually, I don't know of them had ever been. And again, they kind of get into a little bit of trouble, but they manage to get out of it with the help of this new character, Strider, who's pretty awesome. And I was very suspicious of it first.
Just so you can take a breath.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if we mentioned this or not, but in Tolkien's original notes, he wasn't known as Strider, he was known as Trotter.
Strider's better.
Strider's much better.
Strider's way better than Trotter. Trotter's... I would have made fun of that if I had read that and not knowing anything about it. But it's like, I knew it was Aragorn because I had seen the movies, so we keep going and we meet Bill the Pony, who is... We stand in this house. He is the best character. And they go to Rivendell, but in the meantime, they get into a lot of trouble with the Nazgul. What are they called?
Mm-hmm.
Nazguls? Cool, I'm right. So they get into a fight with them where Frodo nearly dies, and pretty much the only reason he doesn't die is kind of because of the ring and kind of not.
So she failed to mention that this is on top of Weathertop.
Oh yeah, on Weathertop. And which I guess is important for this summary. Sure. Okay, he's nodding in a audio format, so I'm guessing that's yes. So they end up in Rivendell, and they have the Council of Elrond, which rough, and Frodo's talking to Bilbo a lot, while Merry, Pippin, and Sam are just like, wow, this is amazing, and honestly, same. And they have the Council of Elrond where we meet Gimli and Legolas and all these other dudes, and we find out that a bunch of dwarves have gone missing, and the elves are starting to get worried about other stuff as well. And then the ring is mentioned, and so they decide that there should be as many people in the party as there are Nazgul because, I guess, symmetry. And so they start moving out. They get kind of their butts beaten by a mountain, and so they go through the mountain into the halls of Durin, where they find the fate of the dwarves is death, and that like goblins are kind of just taking over, and then they awaken the Balrog because Pippin can't leave well enough alone, and throws a pebble into a hole and spirals into just a bunch of things. They escape while Gandalf, "You shall not pass," and like dies temporarily. So they, what?
No, keep going.
Okay.
Dies tomorrow.
We're not dead yet. And so they keep going. They manage to outrun them. They end up in Lothlorien, which is really really cool with Galadriel. They get some awesome gifts from her, and they end up spending a month there, but they don't realize it's a month. And this is when Gimli and Legolas's bromance like really shines. They're just like, let's explore. This is amazing, cool. And again, same. And so I know you're telling me to rush, but this is me rushing. And
I
so
know you're okay. Let me take over.
no, hold on. I've got this. I got this.
Okay.
And so after they leave, they start traveling more, and that's when like Boromir starts really letting the corruption of the ring get to him and tries to convince Frodo to give it to him and like freaks Frodo out. And so he goes to like the top of like the sitting chair, the seeing chair, whatever, and he sees darkness and evil. And so they go off, and so he runs away, and then the orcs attack. They take Merry and Pippin, and Sam and Frodo are like, bye, and just sneak off in the middle of the night. And Aragorn's like, of course Sam went with Frodo. And so with everyone split up, the Gimli, and Boromir dies, which kind of tragic. I kind of liked him a little bit. And so Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn follow Merry and Pippin. They're able to find them. They're able to survive the orcs. They go to some place I can't remember right now with the king that's like under the influence of Wormtongue, and they're just like, "You're under the influence," and he's just like, "Oh, sorry, let me get sober," and kicks Wormtongue out. And so the disappointment in your eyes. And so they go. There's a couple big battles. The Battle of Helm's Deep, and the Treants get involved, and then they see Saruman, and Gandalf like basically like gets Saruman to kind of like tell them a little bit, as well as like kind of keeping him in the tower where he can't get out. And then they find the palindrome, not a palindrome, Panaquin. I don't remember the name of it.
It's a palindrome.
Anyway, they find the orb.
Boom, bang, pow. That's a palindrome.
Okay. The orb looky thingy, and Pippin picks it up, and his natural curiosity intensifies, where he steals in the middle of the night, looks in it, and Sauron's like, ha ha ha, I see through you, where he's actually just an idiot and doesn't comprehend what's going on, and he pieces out too quickly before he gets the right information. And then Gandalf takes Pippin, and they just go somewhere else, while the rest of the group go another place, and that's where we are.
And now y'all know what I live with all the time.
I thought that was a half decent summary.
Maybe half.
How would have I made that even quicker?
We're not going to make this longer by me explaining that to you online.
Online?
Online.
Okay.
We're online.
Oh, yeah, we are online right now, I guess. Anyway, so...
All right, so
with all of that, Dad, what were your least favorite parts besides having to deal with me being a Dumbo?
My least favorite parts of the book are how they get everyone to Rivendell. Rivendell is supposed to not be an easy place to find, but they're able to find it right away. And I know Strider's been there before and so forth like that.
Like a ton of times.
But you would still think, I mean, I shouldn't say it wasn't, I don't think it was hard enough for them to get to someplace like that, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I mean, yes, we have Frodo getting stabbed up on Weathertop, but that's hard. I mean, of course, the blade's poison, but that's hardly, enough adventure to get to your first stopping place.
Okay, first of all, I forgot Tom Bombadil. And second of all, I feel like that was such an adventure.
I was going to say Tom Bombadil when you asked me what my favorite was.
Oh. Well, I forgot in the summary, but we can talk more about it in depth. But anyway, So, but yeah, I feel like there was so much adventure. I mean, the common critical thing that I had and that so many people have when they try to read these books for the first time is there's so much walking and almost too, well, no, there is too much detail in some points. And yeah, I get it. It's to really like hammer home like what they're going through and how long the journey is. But at some point, it just gets enough already.
Right. The long walk. I mean, it's a joke, but it almost deserves to be a joke. The long walk is just, in my opinion, lazy writing.
Okay.
So they have all these difficulties, just walking.
Yeah.
They haven't ran up against, I mean, what? There's no robbers on the road. There's no bandits. There's no bears. There's no. I mean, just it's from a DM point of view.
So they kept rolling nat 20s on all their encounter checks, is what you're telling me.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I guess that was something I hadn't considered. Yeah, it is for everything that they go through. There wasn't like the common stuff. Well, they do kind of talk about how they do go off the path a lot, like to avoid other people, to avoid robbers and bandits and such. But on the other hand, in those times, they could run into bears. I mean, they do run into that tree that tries to eat them.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Right. But that's how they got to meet Tom Bombadil.
Right.
Tom Bombadillo.
We will get to in a second. So my least favorite part was honestly the Council of Elrond. I absolutely hated that chapter. I understand it was important, but it took me almost 3.5 to 4 readings of it to fully comprehend that chapter, and I still don't think I did fully. Like, it was so much. I don't even know how to describe how much I disliked it. It was so many people we had never met before. And then they started quoting people we had also never met before. And it was a lot.
Well, we talked about that in that chapter about how Tolkien broke every rule about writing.
And you can tell. Sometimes breaking the rules is like cool and rebellious and new and edgy. This was just dull.
But would you have wanted it to go on any further, though?
No, of course not. And then they said, like, they even said it's like there's more that could go on that they didn't. And I'm like, thank God. Like, oh my Lord. It was rough. It was just a rough read for me. On the other hand, in a weird way, I think my favorite part is that second chapter where we get all of that background of the One Ring, where that's also an information dump. But I feel like that information dump is more of, I mean, it's a little bland still, but it's kind of told like a story in itself. And I really liked that because it really intensifies the lore. It really sets up this world. It sets up the journey. And I really did like that a lot.
Okay. Well, my favorite part, and I always joke about Tom Bombadil,
Mm-hmm.
but my actual favorite part of this whole thing is the fact that the friendship. So my favorite part is that this friendship between Gandalf and Bilbo has passed on to Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you would think that a wizard who has all these responsibilities. I mean, because we see it in The Hobbit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't go with you. Got to go do this.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back, but I can't do this. Bye. But he's been around for these decades.
Yeah.
And maintained that friendship, which I find very interesting.
I definitely gotta say, I have found a love for Gandalf I didn't know I could have. Because we see he is this extremely powerful wizard. He's this very important wizard. Everyone knows him as this great wizard or this great, like, powerful thing that bad things happen around. And while the rest of the world kind of sees him as that, when it comes to the hobbits, he's just that troublemaker that had something to do with Bilbo.
Right.
And his mysterious wanderings.
Well, and he's also known for his fireworks.
And he's known for his fireworks, yeah. And he's just kind of this lazy old wizard that just kind of relaxes and does fireworks and just chills. And he's and on one hand, one, that's amazing that he has like his vacation home and his like his friends that he can. It's his vacation home. And like these friends he can just relax with and enjoy. But it's also the fact that this very important, powerful character, he's the only one that really knows about hobbits, let alone respects them. And he loves them for who they are, as these not necessarily simple folk, but folk with simple pleasures that find joy in menial things that other people disregard. And we know Tolkien himself is basically a hobbit. And I just think it's really nice that, like, a lot of people find, like, the countryside boring and rural places not having much culture and stuff like that. But both Tolkien and Gandalf have a really good respect for that place and those people.
Right. Yeah. And I guess another place that I find, no, I shouldn't say I like it. It's a place I think it's very important. Mm-hmm. Is the discussion around getting into the mines.
Yeah.
And what happens in the mines. Because even Gandalf is surprised at what the heck is going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And he usually has his finger on the pulse of the world.
Yes.
So these evil things have been able to stay hidden.
Yeah,
for
and
this long.
That shakes him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you got anything else right now?
No, those are the parts that I just didn't like and that I did really like.
Okay.
Also, I mean, Pippin and Mary and Pippin, just I gotta love them.
Well, okay, so
as well as Gimli and Legolas's bromance. I love that
well,
as
I was
well.
going to ask. That's what I was going to ask. Which bromance do you like better? And we've got 3 of them.
Okay, so let's think about this clearly. Sam and Frodo they're cousins that are basically brothers because they're so close in age to each other, and they are codependent, I would say.
But Sam also works for him.
Right. But it's not necessarily like employee-employer relationship. It's definitely deeper than that.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned at the time, it's
like the lieutenants and their PAs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also you have Merry and Pippin, who are, again, 2 very young cousins that are essentially 16 and 17 respectively when you take into account what they would be in human years, just kind of egging each other on, going on an adventure. They're rather brave for their age, but and adventurous for a hobbit.
I think that if they are the equivalent of 15, 16-year-olds.
No. Oh yeah, they are 15, 16 because Gimli, because
if they're the
Gamgee would
if
Sam would be about 17.
Right, that's their.
Because Frodo's basically just 18.
I think you got the names all wrong.
Did I?
You've got ages wrong.
How did I get ages wrong? Because on one hand you have Sam and Frodo, who are, they kind of have that, what we've talked about before, the lieutenant and the PA kind of relationship, but they're also very close cousins that are rather codependent. And then you have Merry and Pippin, who are the equivalent of 16, 17, 18, respectively, between the 2 of them. And they're just kind of these young, brave, adventurous teenagers just ready to take on the world and kind of egging each other on, but also protecting each other. But then you have Legolas and Gimli, who are also kind of in the equivalent of their mid to late 20s. And they might be my favorite romance because it really is that it's such a common trope of people who shouldn't get along that do get along, where the dwarves and the elves don't get along and they rarely ever come together and work together. But and you see Gimli and Legolas like kind of arguing and being hostile towards each other at the beginning, and then they find respect for each other, and then they find that they have a lot of common interests, and then they work together. And I think even though it's an old trope, an overused trope, it's a trope used for a reason because it's such a good one. It can go really bad sometimes when it's like done just really like just for the sake of the trope, but this is where that trope kind of comes from.
Right.
Is Tolkien. Like, we have to realize a lot of these tropes in these books Tolkien created. And I have a lot of respect for the fact that this is really where that trope comes from, and where the whole idea of friends becoming friends even though they have in this case races that dislike each other, but like just like parents who dislike each other and families who dislike each other. And it's written so well, the development of it.
Okay.
So I think that's why they're my favorite.
All right.
Do you have a favorite of the three?
A favorite of the three, I kind of like Merry and Pippin better. Because I mean they are still young at heart, and they still have that.
Well, they're young at heart because they are young.
Well, I know, but they're still young at heart. They have this mischievous streak about them. Part of that comes from their family.
Yes.
And having those type of ancestors who have gone off and explored and so forth, and also are on the edge. They don't live in Hobbiton. They live out on the edge, closer to man's territory.
Yeah.
And so, and we also in the book, especially the whole thing about the chapter about mushrooms. We even hear about Frodo.
Wild side, sneaking into the farm and getting some mushrooms.
Yep. Yeah. But I like I said, that's why I like them as a pair, as two really good friends. I mean, they've probably known each other since they were toddlers.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to ask you. So, what is your favorite prediction you made that came right?
That came right?
That came right.
Okay. Did I get right? Not much.
That's why it should be an easy pick.
Yeah. What did I get right? I remember what I got wrong.
Okay. So what was the biggest disappointment of getting something wrong?
Honestly, Sam and Frodo not showing up at all this book. I mean, I made some very, very bold, confident predictions.
For 4 or 5 books in a row.
Chapters.
Or chapters.
But no, but like I was so confident on Flotsam and Jetsam. Like, listeners, I don't think you understand. I was so confident. Like, so confident that I was right. Same with the Palanquin, is that what it is? Palanquin, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
I always have to get on the computer and do, how do you pronounce this?
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that one too, like, I wasn't sure what it was, but I was sure what it wasn't, and that was anything to do, again, with what we had just read. But on that note, I guess I was really happy to finally meet Treebeard. I didn't necessarily. I was really I was close to Treebeard, to getting Treebeard right. When I heard that they were going into the Fangorn, I was like, wait, that sounds familiar. Is that Treebeard? And I'm so happy I was right, because I have a lot of friends who love Treebeard. So I wanted to finally like really get to know him so I could fall in love with him too. And I think I did a little bit. I really like Treebeard.
You're too hasty.
I am too hasty.
At least in how you speak.
So, on my predictions, what are some memorable predictions that I have made, either true or false, that you've either really loved or really hated or had like some strong emotion towards?
Well, see, my choice is the same as your worst one.
Flotsam and Jetsam.
Float,
I was so
float,
confident.
Flotsam and Jetson.
I just remember your face.
Just not having any idea at all what that means. Especially for someone who worked doing canoe camp and went on canoe camp.
It was a counselor for canoe camp.
Just did not know those terms.
I had never heard them before. There was another one. I can't remember what the prediction was, but I just very clearly remember seeing your face and you trying your hardest not to burst out laughing. And it was before Flotsam and Jetsam. But I just very vividly remember you trying not to just burst out laughing. And I'm like, by the look on your face, I am 100% wrong. I think it had to do something with Saruman, but I do remember the face you made where you're like, what in the world?
Oh, and I think the reason that you thought they were names, because that's the names of Ursula's electric eels.
So subconscious. Because controversial opinion, I don't like the Little Mermaid, but I love Ursula.
That does not surprise me at all, you little evil thing.
Well, I don't like the Little Mermaid. She's all like, oh, but Daddy, I love him. You're 16. Even when I was a kid, I was like, this is weird. Then again, I also love Cinderella, but her whole thing is being kind and talking to mice, and I wanted to talk to mice as a kid, so that probably says a lot about me.
Okay, let's rein this one in.
Okay. All right, so you had a couple things that you wanted to talk about specifically.
Well, actually, yeah, I mean, a couple of things. So, Tolkien, he's got, we have to remember he's got that religious background.
Yeah.
He's got a scholarly background. I mean, there's some philosophy within his background and so forth like that. So I find it very interesting, his take on good and evil.
Okay.
So, because the whole Lord of the Rings is about struggle between good and evil. And we get a sense of that almost all the way back to the very beginning of the book.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely, you can tell The Hobbit was a kid's story, and The Lord of the Rings, he definitely thought about even more.
Right. And, yeah, I won't talk about my problems with The Hobbit being the kid's story yet.
We'll get there.
We'll wait until we get there.
And we will get there.
So, and he, having that Catholic background upbringing, he knew a lot about some of those church fathers and so forth, and they probably informed him as well.
Well, he was basically raised by a preacher,
right? And also because of the philosophy stuff, because Aristotle said that comedies are about people who are worse than we are.
Yeah.
Epics are about people better than we are, and tragedies are about people who are just like us.
Okay.
And Lord of the Rings is a tragedy under this idea.
Okay.
Because they're not any worse than us. They're not any better than us. They're just trying to do their best.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So.
And some of them do give in to their worst instincts.
Right. Now, Manichaeism is the view that the two equals, good and evil, have to stay even. Because that's part of the whole neutral character
Yeah.
and when you play Dungeons and Dragons and so forth. Um, but so according to Manichaeism, the evil are locked in a struggle
Mm-hmm.
for world domination.
World denomination?
World domination. According to Manichaeism, huh? No. According to Manichaeism, good and evil are locked in this struggle for world domination, and it's not clear which will win. And that's also the basic philosophy found in Star Wars.
Which is very much a Lord of the Rings meets a Western in space.
Right. Uh, in the part in the beginning of The Lord of the Rings, we read that Bilbo is reluctant to let Gandalf touch the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So, is Bilbo reluctant to do that, or is it an impulse coming from the ring?
I mean, both.
Well, right, but which one? So this item has been infused with evil.
Well, yeah, but okay, I know you're talking rhetorically, but I feel like I take rhetoricals and make them very literal because Bilbo, yeah, has been corrupted, is slow to corruption, but he's still slightly corrupted by this ring, and so he wants to hold on to this ring, and then the ring itself is just like, Gandalf's gonna know what I am and try to destroy me, so I also don't want it over. So it's kind of like both.
Yeah. So
I'm a very literal person. I don't do rhetoric.
She says literally all the time.
I really do.
And don't mean it.
I am a literal person, though.
The One Ring has the power it does because Sauron created it to help him in his quest.
Right.
To take over the world.
Yes.
So the question is, does the ring corrupt people, or does Sauron's power working through the ring corrupt people?
Yes.
It's not a yes or no question.
It's a both question.
Yeah. But I mean, is the ring evil?
Yes. Okay. We have determined that the ring is sentient. It was created sentient by Sauron's power, but it has also... It's kind of like an evil puppy dog that serves its master. It's sentient in that it wants to return to its master, and it's going to, like, mess up people along the way, but it's definitely subservient to Sauron.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the ring is a evil puppy dog, confirmed.
And so when they get to Elrond, Elrond is telling us that nothing is even in the beginning. Even Sauron was not like this in the beginning. Sauron got corrupted from his greed.
From his greed and lust for power.
But in the beginning, he's not evil.
Mm-hmm.
So this, So
does that make Voldemort more evil since he was born evil?
We don't know that.
According to Joe, he was.
He was born evil.
According to Joe, because he was conceived under the powers of a love potion, he could not feel love. And that's kind of like going into like that's what made him who he was.
All right, so
but I guess that's not inherently good or evil.
All right, so we are taking a little slight left towards Albuquerque, going down the rabbit hole. All right, so since you brought Harry Potter,
but since he can't feel love, he only has a lust for power, and he will do whatever it takes to get it, and that in itself is inherently evil, in my opinion. Capitalism.
So, one, Dumbledore, a Gandalf stand-in, tries...
Except Dumbledore sucks, and I don't like him. But that's neither here nor there.
Of course he sucks. He's gay.
I'm going to tell my friends, but we won't keep that in. Okay. He is a bottom.
Oh. So...
That's going to be a Patreon-only exclusive, folks. You're welcome, guys.
Talking about Harry Potter, since you brought it up, and you bring it up almost every episode.
I really do.
So,
it's like I'm obsessed or something.
Since we have just recently watched the first movie again.
First two.
Yeah, but it's basically the first movie though.
Yeah.
All right. So what destroys what do they call Horcrux?
Horcrux, yeah.
Horcrux. What destroys them?
Something that's something that can destroy completely and fully without the possibility of regeneration.
So basilisk poison.
Yes.
Why didn't Harry Potter die when he got bit by that basilisk?
Because the Phoenix tears. If they would have just let him die, then the Horcrux would have died too, and it would have been so much easier. So basically, Fox screwed up everything. But they needed Harry to be the sacrificial lamb leader. I have a lot of Harry Potter thoughts. We can really go down this rabbit hole. So keep it Lord of the Rings right now.
Right, yeah. But see, that's my point. That's my point. It's people. I mean, something like that. That doesn't happen. I mean, somebody getting corrupted that easy doesn't happen. Like Ginny being, convinced by the book.
Well, completely taken over and possessed.
Yeah.
But the ring doesn't do it. It corrupts what's already in your heart.
Right.
Which kind of you see in later Harry Potter books with the locket, that it does it to Ron the most. But again, it's definitely more in your face corruption than the ring, which is a little bit more. Well, no, the ring really is really in your face corruption. It's just hobbits.
So, getting back to evil in Lord of the Rings. So, it's not surprising that Tolkien has the view of St. Augustine that goodness is necessary for evil, but evil is not necessary for goodness. Evil begins at the end of goodness. Evil happens when goodness is corrupted by, for us, another human, basically. Evil, people aren't, in real life, people aren't born evil.
Right, they just become corrupt by power and
right.
greed and such, yeah.
Right, and so Tolkien says, in my story, I do not deal with absolute evil. I do not think there is such a thing. Instead of no, and he basically goes on to, I'm going to sum it up saying that, since you don't need evil, evil is zero if everything comes about. Evil has no real power on its own. Evil only has power when it's got its grips on something.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the ringwraiths ride real horses and wear real robes, as Tolkien says, to give shape to their nothingness when they are dealing with the living.
Okay.
Because if they didn't take on these trappings, you wouldn't see them.
But you're also telling me that that evil has only net profit at this point. They have everything to gain and nothing to lose, almost.
Correct.
So what's us from stopping evil then?
What stops us from? Well, I mean,
or is it more that it's like not letting evil in, and so it goes back to zero, I guess.
Right. So for another example, when Frodo looks into the mirror and sees the eye of Sauron, it says he sees that the black slit of its pupil open on a pit, a window to nothing. See, so again, nothing is behind the evil.
Okay.
Okay. There's nothing making Sauron evil. He's making himself evil. And then that evil leaks out into the world.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
And Gandalf also says about Saruman, after the fall of Isgard, that he's withered away altogether. So, he doesn't even have his evil anymore to fall back on. So Tolkien would say that where does evil come from? And all evil comes from the mind of some created person or another.
Man, I had a headache before we started this. I was already tired from work, and now you got me thinking about philosophy.
But yeah, so but also in the Lord of the Rings, the root of evil is the desire for something that violates the rightful order of things.
Okay.
So in other words, evil comes from the exercise of, drum roll please, free will.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
So we see Sauron use his pride and his greatness and the people, these morals, because he sees them as being weak. He works them the way he does. And then at a point, he uses his pride and his greatness to ensnare even the elves at one point.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Sauron learned the art of ring making by ensnaring the elven smiths. They were the elves who lived near Khazad-dûm, and they lived in harmony and traded with dwarfs.
Yeah.
So these elves made the rings, and Sauron appeared as Anatar. So they don't know they're dealing with Sauron.
Anatar, the last airbender? Sorry.
But the elves didn't make their rings until he left. So that's why the 3 elven rings are not corrupted.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes some sense.
And also.
And so the one ring was the one that he created just on his own, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's also the fact that Sauron never touched the elven rings.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're different.
But he quote unquote helped with the dwarven and human rings.
Right. Yes, and while he was helping, he learned to make the one ring.
Right. So this brings into this question: how freaking powerful would the hobbits have been if they had gotten a ring? Like, the hobbits are like these awesome people, and they never even got a ring. Like, one, would they even want one? I feel like most of them wouldn't want it, and then like one of the Tooks would be like, sure, why not? And then, but then again, if they did have the rings, maybe we would have the Age of Hobbits. I mean, then again, our family is hobbits. Did you see how hairy Alex's legs were the other day? Oh my lord, I thought he was a Sasquatch. Hi, Alex. I love you.
So then we have Tom Bombadil.
Yes.
Say, what happens when Tom Bombadil takes the ring?
Nothing happens.
Absolutely nothing.
And is that because he has no mind for evil, or
no,
is he just...
He's 100% content with his place in the world and has no desire to have any power over anything other than his part of the world. And he doesn't even want power over this part of the world. He just wants to live in harmony with the part of the world.
He just takes care of it.
Yeah.
He just chastises willow trees that try to eat people, and he like has an awesome hot river wife. Like, what more could you want? Honestly, living that cottage core fantasy that us millennials are now dreaming
of. Right. Boromir, he couldn't resist the lure. Elrond even tried to tell him that, it will eventually corrupt whoever takes it.
Yeah.
But Boromir is already taken by it.
Oh, yeah.
At this point. As soon as he hears that it exists,
he's immediate, and his entire thing is just like, oh, we can use it against him. Already not really realizing it hasn't snared him.
Right. We also know that Saruman is unable to resist the lure of the ring. He tries to tell Gandalf. He tries to get Gandalf to join him. Mm-hmm. He tries to justify the means and ends in the terms of the end. At one point, he asks Gandalf if he knows where the ring is, and a lust which he could not conceive shone suddenly in his eyes.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah. So the hobbits have no desire for it. The hobbits do not like things that are not in order. And
Yeah.
that's what evil is. Evil is knocking things
Which is
out of
why
a goodly order.
Which is why you know that like the ring really has to work. Like really work at the hobbits to get them to be corrupted.
Right.
And I honestly think it's the same it would be the same for Gandalf, where Gandalf like is mostly content with his life, but he's very well aware that if he was offered more, he might want it.
Yeah.
Which is why he tries to stay humble.
Okay. Now, so for a little spoiler alert,
Okay.
it's about the Hobbit. Not,
Okay.
So where Thorin Oakenshield.
Oh yeah, I've read the Hobbit.
Yeah. Where Thorin Oakenshield is dying, he tells Bilbo, if more of us valued food and cheer and song over hoarding gold, it would be a merrier world.
Mm-hmm.
See, so that's, they just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Basically,
Which is so evident when Gandalf comes to town and they're like, nope, no thank you. Goodbye.
And then we also figure out that Sauron himself is so corrupt and so focused on world domination, he doesn't even think that the others, the nine and the elves and them, would cast them down and have no one in his place.
Mm-hmm.
He can't even fathom the idea that, they want the ring so they can do something.
Right.
They don't.
He can't even fathom that they would want to destroy it.
Right, or destroy, or after they destroy him, to raise
Not,
somebody up in the place of him.
Right, and someone to fill that power vacuum.
Right, and then so it should be no surprise to us that evil is connected to the destruction of good things in Lord of the Rings. Treebeard says that Saruman does not care for growing things except as far as they serve him for the moment.
Yeah.
And so the Treebeard and the Ents are all, they're about as neutral as you can get. Because they don't really get riled up until they find out how much the world has tilted away from being even. And that's probably why they acted the most hastily as they've ever acted in their lives.
Right. Yeah.
They actually marched to walls and tore them down. So the fear of this evil, or the need to fight this evil, is very strong for a lot of people in the book.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas the evil itself, so Gollum. Gollum just wants the damn ring.
Yeah, that's all he wants.
He doesn't want...
And he wants to hide it away from the rest of the world.
Right. He wants the ring. He wants it so he can turn invisible and sneak up on people.
On people and eat them.
On people and eat them. Or steal from them.
Honestly, goals, but...
Right, but he calls it his precious because it is his most precious thing he owns.
Yeah.
And he sees it that was given to him on his birthday.
Well, we've established that was the ring corrupting his thinking. But that was how he reasoned that it should be his.
Right, but see, that's just it though.
But was it really his birthday? That's the question.
All he wanted was the ring.
Yes.
He didn't want what the ring could offer him.
Which is why the ring betrayed him.
Which also tells us, because we're told in the book that he's from a race of ancestors of the hobbits.
Right.
So even back then, even though he desired this, even though he killed his friend to keep it,
it still didn't quite corrupt him as...
Well, yeah, in
the way that it should have.
Right, it doesn't corrupt him into becoming some world dominator wannabe.
Yeah. Which again, the ring was just like, really, this is it?
It's
a disgruntled spouse that wants more out of life. Sorry.
It doesn't and it doesn't bring him, you know, to the proper owner.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been
I
hiding.
mean, that's just the ring's end game.
And he's just been hiding in the cave for so long.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to talk about this much more, but you can even wonder if it's some part of goodness that's still inside Ellen, to not even go outside with it. I mean, he goes and he hides instead of.
See, I don't see that as any goodness. I see that as like jealousy and greed. That he hides it because he doesn't want anyone else to take it. What I feel that he still has some good inside him is, at least from what I understand from the little bit of the movie I remember and the memes I see, is that he tries to help at least a little bit and like does consider helping them actually. But again, we'll actually see how that actually works in the books. This is just my vague recollection and memes that I'm going off of. So we'll see how accurate it is. So.
Okay. All right. So I guess we're done with this episode.
Yeah.
The next time you tune in to us, we'll be back to doing our regular gig.
Yeah.
Talking about the chapters one at a time.
Also, supposedly, by the time this is out, we should have our bonus episode that we promised out.
Yes, that'd be nice.
It would. That we're still keeping a secret from our regular listeners. If you're a patron, then you would know already. But, and the patrons will get the full video, not just the audio.
There you go. All right. And so we can tell you right now, though, it's going to be.
No, just in case it doesn't come out.
No, I'm just saying it's going
to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
For me.
It's going to be disastrous.
It is.
It's going to be, I don't know.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And if it goes well, we might do it again. And if it goes disastrous, we still might do it again. Hope we're big enough for you.
So, I've been Robert.
And I've been Evelyn.
And this is Talking About It.